Welcome to the Whole Person Parenting Podcast. We're here to have honest conversations about how to follow Jesus and parent kids in a whole person way. For more content and encouragement as we support you on your journey, you can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. We're so glad you're here. Now let's jump in. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Whole Person Parenting Podcast. We're glad to have you guys here. It's a good day. It's a beautiful day outside, and we are going to be talking about teenagers.
Yes.
So
continuing our
convo. This is kind of a weird one for me because I am.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're talking about me. But today we're in our Are We There Yet series, which I think I already said. Maybe,
yeah.
But maybe just to emphasize. We're still in it.
We're still in it.
We're still in it.
You
This
might
has
be
been a
thinking
journey.
this has been going on for a long time now.
And we
you're
also
not
think
wrong.
that. We also think that this has been going on for a long
It
time.
has.
However, we do think it's necessary.
We do. And I think it's been good.
I feel like there's a reason.
Yeah.
that we're doing
absolutely.
this. So.
Yes. And just to recap, in case you haven't listened to the previous episodes yet, I like the reason behind it of journeying through development is because like God made us in this process, right? He made us to do this process. He made us to continue to develop over time. We see this process of development happening in our Christian walk, in our physical bodies, in our relationships.
Yep.
And so this is by God's design.
Yeah.
That this is the way this works.
And so that's why we feel like it's worth the time that we've put into it, is because this is something that is supposed to be like a holy thing. It's supposed to be like set apart, and this process of walking with the Lord and growing up and becoming an adult, and also just like the parent-child relationship, the fact that there is a parent. I mean, God could have just created us all out of dust, but there's a reason that he
decided
to do
way.
it this way. So we believe that there's importance and relevance, and and that's important. So
So that's why we're doing it.
That's why we're doing
Just to recap, in case you're like brand new, there's lots of episodes. If you want to go back and listen, please do that.
And in our last episode, we did talk about teenagers, but we talked about it from a pretty surface level. Just kind of looking at like what's happening developmentally, what the common misconceptions around the high school age, late middle school age is, and kind of what that means. And so, but today we kind of wanted to just go in with like kind of a pretty broad, and we're just going to talk. We have a couple of ideas of what we want to hit, but in case this feels authentic, it's because it is, because we are just going in.
I feel like that's all.
They're all authentic
for the most
but
part.
if this one feels particularly authentic, and that's a generous, nice word of it, maybe chaotic slightly.
Yeah.
But we just want to talk, and
well,
because I mean, this is the age. It is chaotic, and
it is. That's what I was gonna say. Is like there's kind of a parallel there. There's
you never know what's gonna happen. You never know what's gonna. We have the same mind right now.
We do. Yep.
You never know what's going to come out of a teenager's mouth. I never know what's going to come out of my mouth.
That's true.
Ever. I always be saying those random stuff.
So chaotic, and also just changing all the time and fluid. Like all of this
it is.
Feels like what teenage years are like. So one of the things that I want to make sure that we talk about, because I think it is often in the forefront, if things aren't going well, if they're not following the rules, what should the rules be? When should the rules change? Should they be the same always? Like, who should be in charge here, for what season or what purpose? And so I think what I would like to do today is give maybe some guidelines around that, some ways of thinking about it.
Yeah. So kind of looking at the issues that parents face, what are some of these things that parents, like, I feel like commonly, what are they looking out for? What are they worried about for their teenagers?
Well, like, I think what comes to my mind first whenever you ask me that question is sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I don't know if you guys heard this. This was like the thing that I remember hearing like as a kid myself and like as a growing up. like a teenager. Thing. Yeah, like even earlier than that. I think that actually came maybe in like
the 60s because rock and roll.
Yeah, and so and sex and drugs were a big big pressing issue, like with the whole sexual revolution and everything. Yeah, not to give like a history lesson here, but
that's interesting.
Yeah, so that's what comes to my mind initially, but like at this point, I kind of think that the rock and roll piece of that has been a little bit laid to rest. Like maybe we're not quite as worried about that.
Rock and roll now.
Yeah. Or we're not as worried about it as we once were because there's something else that has been taking the lead, which we talked about quite a bit on here. And so what I would say now would be the worries are probably around like sex, drugs, different types of substances and social media.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's where I think
and I feel like those are the things that I, as a teenager, like hear the most about. Like, I don't think that's like something that's just in the minds of parents. Mm-hmm. I think that genuinely is like what most teenagers struggle with or are experiencing in their everyday lives.
Right. And so, unfortunately, it's not enough to just be like, don't do that, don't engage with that, because I think in our with our culture, like we're becoming more and more, sin sick. I mean, is how I would describe it.
Like more numb to sin.
Mm-hmm. And there's been, I think we've got two sides going on, because I also see teenagers who have a, heart for the Lord, and they're on that straight and narrow path, but more often I see teenagers who desire to have this relationship with the Lord, but they also are dealing with, even within the church, with these like key issues. And so, as parents, I want to just be honest and say, like, this is not something that's not, relevant to parents now, even parents who were Christian parents. And that may be, upsetting or scary, but it's also very, very real. And so, I think this can look like, obviously, even being sexualized at too early of an age. So like, what are we looking at? What are we listening to? What are we wearing? What are like what is okay and what are we kind of numb to? And as parents, like, are we concerned about those things? Like, I think we need to be concerned about them, because I think there is an aspect
because I think there's a real spiritual weight to those things. I think too there's like a reason that these things are bad, not just because I don't think it's just like a cultural, like, old thing that drugs are bad and all this stuff, but then like in our new age those were just myths. I don't think that's true. Like, I think there is a spiritual numbness that comes with these things, which is the exact opposite of what anyone should want. But I mean, in Romans, I was thinking about Romans 7 and 8 is talking about like the battle of the flesh and spirit. And I don't have my usual Bible with me today, but we have the Message translation. So this is pretty, like, it's pretty blunt, but I feel like this is something I've experienced as a teenager, is like this battle between, okay, which world are you going to pick? And last weekend we were at this high school retreat with our church, and I was helping out serving there. And there was this message by one of the pastors in the church, and like this question was posed of where your home is. Like, do you feel more comfortable in the world, or do you feel more comfortable with Jesus? And like, I was convicted in that moment, and I was like, I feel like there's a lot of the times where I do feel more comfortable as part of the world, in worldly things, than I feel more like I've made my home with the world instead of making my home with the Lord. And so I was just thinking about this, and I feel like this was a verse that whenever I first came to the Lord, was really impactful for me, because it made me realize the spiritual battle that I was actually in. Yeah. And it gave me spiritual eyes to see rather than just feeling like I was constantly torn. There was like this acknowledgement that like it's so much deeper than just being like, all right, am I going to do good or am I going to do bad? But Romans 7:21 through 25 says, it happens to me so regularly that it's predictable. The moment I decide to do good, sin is there to trip me up. I truly delight in God's commands, but it's pretty obvious that not all of me joins in that delight. Parts of me covertly rebel, and just when I least expect it, they take charge. I've tried everything and nothing helps. I'm at the end of my rope. Is there no one who can do anything for me? Isn't that the real question? The answer, thank God, is that Jesus Christ can and does. He acted to set things right in this life of contradictions where I want to serve God with all my heart and mind, but am pulled by the influence of sin to do something totally different.
That's so good.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And I think I feel like it's really easy to over spiritualize this, and be like, well, like it's just like I'm gonna have to just be in the spirit all the time. And I do think there is so much, like his mercies are new every morning, and that goes for both parents and teenagers. Yeah. And that's not just
no, there is grace.
Yeah, there's so much grace. And that's what's I think is really cool.
Yeah. But also holding that there is that sin leads to death.
Yeah.
And that following and having a life in the spirit leads to more life.
To life, yeah.
And so it's not just about
yeah, and there's such an illusion of the world right now, and I've experienced it over and over and over again where there's an answer presented from the world to all my problems. If you just do this, you'll feel better. This is going to be better. If you just do that, this is going to be better.
Yeah.
And genuinely, I've tried everything. I know people who've tried other things to try to solve their problems, and it literally nothing ever works. Yeah. But there's such an illusion. It's just try this.
It'll be better. This will be better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think about, you talked about a little bit ago, you said something about spiritual numbness. And I was just thinking about how, sexual things, whether that's actual sex, because I think that was the big scare a long time ago, was like, don't have sex, and it was all about pregnancy. Yeah. And now it's about like consuming your eyes and your mind with sexual sin and lustful things. And so like, it's not even just about sex with a person. It's like all this access.
And most of the time that when I hear it too, again, like as a teenager, it's like, you don't want to have to tell your husband, or you don't want to have to tell your wife in 5 years, right, this is what I did.
Yeah, but that's really, I mean, that is true. Like, that's true. That is possible. But what we know already about development is that's not really in the forefront of your teenager's mind. Not that it's not a good thing to say, and it is something that they need to think about, but your 13-year-old is probably not thinking about that. They're really thinking in the moment.
Yeah.
And so, like, this is, I think, why development is important. What really the bigger question is, when you go to that sexual sin, or when you go to substances, like if what you're looking for in that is to somehow escape something else. Okay, what's the something else that you're trying to escape? Yeah. When you go to social media for approval, for attention, for like escapism, or you go to your video games for escapism or whatever, like what are you needing to escape from? Yeah. Because that sounds like you're needing to escape from the consequences of maybe sinful patterns, and maybe not living fully in what God has to offer. Yeah. Because we don't need to escape from real life. We don't need to escape from the life that God has on offer from us.
Well, because if you're actually believing that God has something better, like
right.
This boils down to someone having their own faith and being able to believe. Yeah. No, I know my God. I know what he's done, and I know what he will do, and I know that he has a better plan for me than what it is now.
Right.
And so I think it takes a level of being able to understand God's character and know, that the plans he has for you are good, in order to get out of those
patterns. Yeah, of trying to numb and escape something, that some kind of emotional pain or experience that is painful or overwhelming. So I think, thinking about like that's making me think about how mental health like plays into that, like knowing your child and how they're doing. Like we've talked about how they feel so driven toward their peers in this age. And so we've talked too about like there being a sense of potential rejection from our children or our teenagers whenever they hit this season. And then you may be thinking about like your own teenage experience and like, well, I just want to be with my friends. They're just going to want to be with their friends. And then sometimes that can mean that we kind of check out as parents or disengage or believe that they don't want to hear anything from us. So we just disconnect. Yeah. We stay quiet. We disconnect whenever really we need to stay connected enough to be able to recognize, where are the struggles,
right?
Like, and to be persistent in that. And even if they're like, I don't want to talk about it, right? Okay, well, coming back and being like, okay, I know you said you don't want to talk about this, but I'm noticing these things, and I really want to be here for you. And so it's that it's still that level of attunement that we know is important even from infancy, of like, what is it where is your need? What is the need that you have?
Yeah.
Let me meet you there at your need.
Yeah. And I feel like that goes back to being able to sit with people in their grief or in their struggle and their anxiety. And I feel like this is something that you did really well with me. 'Cause like I struggled a lot with depression and anxiety, and like I remember being really thankful that I had someone to just sit with me in that.
Mm-hmm.
And not feel like I was being rushed or trying to get fixed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That I was just able to be sad. And I feel like in the long run, that made me, desire to be able to do better. And so like maybe let's go back to the like sex, drugs, social media conversation. What does this mean for parents? Like, what is this? Like, we're acknowledging that like, okay, there's something about the world.
Yeah.
That's
giving you an option.
Yeah.
Like there's an option here. I mean, I think it's.
But like teenagers can't live off of their parents' faith forever.
No, they can't. And they shouldn't. We don't want that. I mean, we want them to, and I think most Christian parents, that is a huge concern.
Yeah.
But it's like, how do we do that?
Because what you guys have experienced the real life that Jesus provides. And of course you're going to want that for the person that you love most is your children.
Yeah. You want that. Or maybe even it's like generational, like we've always been Christian. And so I think there are boundaries that we need to put in place. I think that we need to have boundaries as a family, like prioritizing Christian community, I think is huge. If you don't do that, then wherever your child's finding community, that's where they're going to continue to find community.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not likely to change as they become an adult. So now kids, teenagers, young adults, they have the choice. They do have free will. They do have choice, and that's God-given. God highly values that. And so he allows everyone to make those decisions, and you can't control that for your child. And during the teenage years, they want to be so autonomous. Like you need to allow for them to choose that, but always pointing them back to Jesus, always pointing them back to prayer, pointing them back to the word, pointing them back to how God's been there and been faithful for you, like being willing to have those kinds of conversations, the struggles that you've gone through, but that God's brought you out of. Yeah. And I think in that way, encouraging them in the faith that you have found and the faith that you live out of, and the relationship that you live out of with God, but also encouraging them to develop their own without stuffing it down their throats, and having expectations. I mean, it's not that it's not like I'm like, oh yeah, just let them go out there and discover, and then be a good witness, and then that's that. No, we need to be parents who put in place boundaries, because that is
That's loving.
It is loving. It's for their protection. But I would say that, for me, and I know this is not just, there's not only one way to parent, but I would say for me, I think focusing around like what is safe or what is not safe was really important, and a lot more of that than you doing what I want.
Right.
Me saying, okay, you have a lot of free range, but this isn't safe. If you do this is the possible consequence.
Yeah. And for us, those consequences typically looked like, grounded from your phone, grounded from spending time with friends. If, there was a boundary crossed with that, times where we weren't, like if me and Brayden weren't communicating with you guys very well on like where we were or things like that might have led to
like more restriction. Yeah. Like this constant, the way that I've always visualized it, even just in my own parenting of teenagers, is just like, I'm letting out the rope. Like we're still attached here. I'm still responsible for you. I'm letting out the rope. I'm going to see how this goes.
But if you can't handle it, the rope's
going to get shorter
again.
Yeah. And so I'm all for letting the rope out.
Yeah.
But
also recognizing it when it failed.
Our pastor says when he talks about his teenage boys, he always says trust but verify. And
trust but verify.
Understand that your teenager, is wonderful as they are, they're still just a person. They're human. They're a teenager, and they might make bad decisions. And so we got to trust if they've earned it, to whatever degree that they have earned your trust. But then make sure that they're still trustworthy at the same time. Like verify
if they're not trustworthy, then why
we gotta we gotta pull the rope back in a little bit. Yeah.
No, I think that's really good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's a tough decision to make, because you're always balancing the need to prepare them to like go and launch out in the world, and holding in mind that they could do something that is scary.
I know several people who their rope was held too tight for too long, and they got to college or out in the real world and were completely lost, like just did not understand
how to navigate
the world.
Yeah.
Being able to be set apart within the world,
right,
is like the goal. I feel like in instilling
what's it like to live as a Christian.
Yeah, what it's like to live in a Christian, like not just trying to shelter them from the harsh realities, because that's not help. That's honestly not as helpful as. Yeah, it's a balance.
It's a balance for sure. And I think different parents feel differently about how to do that. And I'd say that for one child, it might mean that they start learning that and they go to public school all the way through. And for another child, it might mean that they are not safe enough in that setting. And so they got to go into a private Christian school, or they need to be homeschooled, or, it depends on the child. But I think this is where that attunement comes in. And there's a saying that I learned years ago and have kind of stuck with, and I may have said on the podcast before, but it's that being fair is not giving everyone the same thing. It's giving each person what they need. And so it's not, it may not look the same from one child to the next. But I mean, developmentally, we know what's going on, but there can be some kids that are a little farther along in some areas, and you can let that rope out quite a bit. And then there may be another child that you have that you've got to keep them pretty close, because otherwise it's just not going to be safe for them. And so I would say framing it in terms of like what is safe and life-giving versus what is potentially harmful.
Yeah, I think that's really good.
Is a basic way to frame that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, all right. Do you feel like that's about a wrap? Anything else on your mind?
I mean, I mean, I had a verse come to mind earlier, and I guess I'll just read it.
Okay.
I don't even know necessarily what it's for, but I was just thinking about this journey of parenting and specifically teenage years, and this was a verse that was shared to me by someone as I was preparing for a missions trip a couple years ago. But it's talking about it's the conversation between Moses and God before God reveals himself to Moses, where Moses is kind of just arguing with the Lord about what it means for his next steps and what this journey is going to look like. And again, this is the Message translation, so it's a little strange, but Moses basically says to God, he says, "Look, you tell me, lead this people, but you don't let me know whom you're going to send with me. You tell me I know you well and you're special to me. If I'm so special to me, let me in on your plans. That way I will continue being special to you. Don't forget this is your people and your responsibility." God responds, "My presence will go with you. I'll see the journey to the end." Moses said, "If your presence doesn't take the lead here, call this trip off right now. How else will it be known that you're with me in this, with me and your people? Are you traveling with us or not? How else will we know that we're special, I and your people, among all other people on this planet Earth?" God says to Moses, "All right, just as you say, this also I will do, for I know you well and you're special to me. I know you by name." And so I was just thinking about, like, for one, that the presence of the Lord goes before us.
Yeah.
And prepares the way. And then also that we are special and known by him. And that includes, parents and kids.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what to say more about that. I just felt like that verse was really encouraging, but also I feel like really real with the doubt of believing, is God going to be with me in this?
Yeah, and I mean, what's interesting there to me, what stands out is about how Moses is saying, like, these are your, like, this is your responsibility. Yeah. You know, you're supposed to be doing these things, and it's like he
is the first father. Yeah,
right.
He is the first father. Yes. He does have the responsibility.
He does.
For us.
Ultimately,
he's the one that gave us life, and he's the one that will take it when it's time.
Right. So ultimately, yes. I love how he's saying, like, I want to say, like, you are responsible, but I think it's a way of, like, putting it back in God's hands. Yeah, which is really what we have to do. I mean, whenever your teenager goes on an out of town trip, the first time with their school, or the first time, or they go to retreat, like what you were talking about, or the first time that they pull out of that driveway and they drive off by themselves, and they're in a vehicle by themselves.
I remember you took a video of me.
I took a video of both of you. and just that like tug on your heart about, like, oh gosh, like, this is scary, and God, please keep them safe and watch over them as they go, and help them not to hurt themselves or someone else.
And that's him.
Yeah. But putting it back in his hands, and it's that gradual process that's going to allow you eventually to be like, okay, and now they're out of my house and they're still in your hands, and I don't have to be.
Oof, that's good. They're out of my house, frantic, but they're still in your hands.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't have to be frantic and worried about anything, because I know that you have them. You've been having them. I've done this over time with you, and we've partnered together through raising these kids. Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good combo.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is helpful.
Hopefully that was helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, we've got, I believe, one more episode.
Yeah, I think one more episode in this series.
One more episode of the series. So we'll be talking about adults.
Yeah, young adults
that are out of their parents' house. How to still be a parent to someone who's not a kid.
Yep, exactly.
Not an adult, not in your house.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Or an adult, not in your house.
Not in your house, yes. Yeah. So yeah.
All right.
Thank you guys for listening.
We'll see you next time. Anything else? Any final words, Press?
Adios.
Adios, amigos.
Bye.
Bye.